Today, we're going to talk about getting that perfect parenting schedule in your divorce case. My name is Bobby Buchanan. I'm an Illinois divorce lawyer, and this is Illinois Divorce TV. So I say perfect parenting schedule a little tongue in cheek because I'd imagine most of you, your perfect parenting schedule would be seeing your kids every day, or maybe not, actually. Maybe your perfect parenting schedule is that you want to focus on your career. Maybe not. Maybe your perfect parenting schedule is that you want to pay the lowest in child support as possible. Or maybe your perfect parenting schedule is that you need to make sure that you maintain a close relationship with your children to avoid the alienation of the other parent. That if you know that if you go too long without seeing your child, that they're going to come back and they're going to have a lot of ideas in their head about this, that, and the other thing related to your relationship with your son or your daughter or your children. The point being is that there is no perfect parenting schedule in general. There is a parenting schedule that works for you, that works for your kids, that works for your family. And when you separate, when you get divorced, things are going to change. Things are being thrown up in the air and things are never going to be the same. And maybe you were never happy with your parenting schedule before. Maybe you didn't like the fact that you were the primary breadwinner and you never got to see your kids. And maybe this is an opportunity for that to change. What you need to do in this process to figure out what is the perfect parenting schedule is to decide, to make some decisions, to really sit down and think about what you want your life to look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years as your kids get older. Now, this is harder the younger your kids are. If your kids are older, they've established routines, they have more preferences, and they might be able to actually have a dialogue with you about what they want, what's important to them in their life. Now, that's not going to be the end all be all, as one judge likes to say. You can't let the inmates rule the prison, meaning what the kids want isn't necessarily what's best for them. Let's back up though and talk a little bit about these different scenarios. Well, let's back up even further and talk about the fundamental thing that you need to do first, and that is get clear. It's all about clarity and seeing what you want your life to look like as far as the parenting goes. But in order to do this, in order for this to really have the power, is that you have to be able to put your kids first, and you have to really back away from the situation, remove yourself from the situation, remove your needs, your wants, your desires, your emotions, your anger, your feelings of envy, jealousy, whatever baggage you're bringing to the situation. You have to remove yourself because it's not about you. And at the end of the day, it's about your kids and giving them the best future and the most stability for them. So really, if you are going to make an impactful vision, or you're going to create an impactful vision and goals for this parenting schedule, you have to align yourself as much as possible with what is best for the kids, what's in the best interest of the children. But we can back off of that for a second and just talk about these different scenarios just to throw them out there and kind of understand the different dynamics that are at play. Because when you talk to your lawyer and say, I want X, I want Y, I want Z, your lawyer is going to say, okay, let's understand what the law is around that area and what the custody process looks like so that we can decide whether or not that is a good strategy to have. And sometimes, what you want through this process isn't necessarily what the judge sees as the best possibility. So that perfect schedule is going to come out of you being in alignment with what the kids really need. But let's run through this exercise so you can really see what I'm talking about. The first thing is, let's say, for example, that your desire is to pay the lowest child support. That's the easiest one for us to talk about as far as what needs to happen. What needs to happen is that you have 60% or more of the overnights. If you have 60% or more of the overnights, you will not pay child support except in extremely extraordinary circumstances. But the law is pretty clear. If you have more than 60% of overnights, you won't pay child support. If you have 40 to 60% of the overnights, you'll pay drastically less than if you have less than 40% of the overnights. What is 40%? Well, that's about 12 overnights. So we're talking about what? 12 to 16 overnights per month is what you would need to start really drastically lowering your child support. Now, is that going to be possible in your case? It 100% depends on what is the routine of the children now. What is, there are like 17 different factors that the court looks at when it comes to parenting time. And they're not going to throw the children's life upside down in order and say, you know what, the best thing possible here is that dad pays or mom pays the lowest child support possible. But you can make that your goal. But you just have to realize that that goal is not going to be aligned necessarily with what's in the best interest of the children. So it's going to be harder to attain. The more your goal is not really putting the kids first, the harder it's going to be to obtain. How about the goal of wanting to maximize your time with your kids so that you avoid the alienation of the other parent? That is a goal that it can really be said to be aligned with the best interests of the children, because the alienation of the kids by one parent has long-lasting psychological consequences, negative psychological consequences for the kids. So you spending more time with the kids so that you can counteract that alienation is going to be in their best interest. And that is a strategy that you and your attorney can really focus on and say, okay, this is the goal. We want to maximize our time with the kids because we want to avoid the alienation. How about you want to be the every other weekend parent because your career is first and foremost? Well, that certainly could be aligned with the best interests of the children, especially if that has been your MO and kind of the status quo throughout the course of the marriage. You convincing a judge that that's going to be possible, or convincing a judge that that's in the best interest of the children, may not be that difficult, especially if the other parent is ready and willing to continue to step up in that way and be the primary caretaker. Obviously, you're going to have to be prepared to continue to bear the burden financially, but that might not be a problem. For some people, they say, that's fine. I love my career. I want to build my career. If I have to pay extra child support or extra alimony in order to do that, I'm going to do that. And so that sort of goal make a lot of sense. What if your goal is to provide the most equal schedule between you and the other parent? Well, depending on the status quo, or depending on what the kids are doing now, where they're going to school, where you live, where the other parent is going to live, the logistics, that could be aligned with the best interests of the children. And not necessarily. In some states, there's a presumption that a 50-50 schedule is in the best interest of the kids. Not in Illinois. There is no presumption like that. And a lot of times the judges look at, well, what's the status quo here? And if you have one parent who's working all the time and the other parent who doesn't work and is kind of the main attachment with the kids, and they have been doing all the school stuff, the doctor stuff, the extracurriculars, it can be a little more difficult to convince a judge or convince the other parent that, okay, now we're going to be doing 50-50. A judge is going to wonder how the kids are going to deal with that, because their life is going to be kind of turned upside down. And then convincing the other parent to detach a little bit and to not see the kids. Even though it's an incredible amount of work to take care of kids all the time. Kids are exhausting. And the primary parent, God bless them, because they are doing that amount of work that it requires so much focus, attention, and energy. But at the same time, letting go of that as the primary parent is not easy, and saying, okay, yeah, now my life is going to be thrown upside down and I am not going to have that role 50% of the time. So convincing both the judge and the other parent might be the challenge. But if it seems clear that a 50-50 schedule would work in your situation, that there's no big hurdles to it, and logistically it would work, and the kids seem into it, and the other parent doesn't have super hardcore resistance against it, then that again could be in alignment with the best interests of the kids and could turn out to be the perfect schedule for the kids. So there you have it. I hope that gives you a little bit of a context and a framework to start to understand where you need to be, where your head needs to be in order to get through this custody process and figure out what your goals are in this process. The clearer you are with your goals, and you have you understand whether or not your goals are realistic or they're, aligned with how things work. If my goal was to coast uphill and I wanted to get some feedback on whether or not that was a good goal, and I talked to a physicist, they would say that is not a good goal because the laws of the universe are not going to cooperate in your goal because gravity pulls you down. Well, in this case, a custody lawyer, a divorce lawyer is your physicist, and you need to talk to them about whether or not your goals are realistic. So if this is helpful, if this is, beneficial, or you have other questions, leave me a comment below, subscribe, and check out our further videos. This has been Illinois Divorce TV. Have a great day.